Hello, hello, my renegades out there. Welcome back to the Renegade Society radio show. Thank you so much for joining me. I have a very exciting guest that I cannot wait to talk with, who also has like a super cool setup that I can't wait to reveal to you once we get there. Before we jump into that, I just wanted to let everybody know we have some cool, exciting things now available for pre-order. So we have the Snallygaster situation, which is now available for pre-order. If you don't know about this game, you need to know about this game. It is so electric in terms of all the artwork. It is very dynamic in terms of gameplay, and it's definitely got a lot of replayability in it. It is a family-friendly, cooperative adventure game where your kids trying to basically find one of your lost friends, and game where your kids trying to basically find one of your lost friends. And yeah, it's really exciting. So you should definitely check that out. We also have Embarcadero, which is now available for pre-order, which is a really great strategy game where you're sort of like on the waterfront and you're like competing to sort of build your business out there. And it's actually named after I believe it's a San Francisco waterfront. I apologize if I didn't get it that right. Desiree's nodding at me like, yes, you did get it right. Just remembering off the cuff. But yeah, super cool game as well. And then we also have the Gravwell second edition, which is now available for pre-order. And ooh, if you love Gravwell, like I love Gravwell, which who doesn't love this game? The updated version actually expands. So you can actually play with 6 people. And you also are going to get cool player powers for each ships. And I didn't note this, but you need to know that the art has also been updated and it's by Kwanchai Moria. So yeah, you need this game. It's really, really great. So you should definitely check that out. And we're going to be giving away a copy of Succulent today. Speaking of beautiful games. So stick around. Not Succulent. Oh, right. It's Terror Below. It's Terror Below. Succulent was last week. I'm living in the past. Sorry, friends. But Terror Below is also a beautiful game. And more than that, it is an exciting action packed game where you are basically trying to fight worms while delivering eggs around the map. And you can ramp up stuff, which is really fun. So that is Terror Below. And we will be giving the code word out for that later in the show. So just keep an eye on the chat. And Desiree will be providing the link for you to click to go enter that code word when I give it to you. And friends, if you have any questions for my guests today, be sure to hold on to those, put those in the chat, and we'll be getting to them later in the show. And my guest, my lovely, lovely guest, is Gloryhoundd today. Hello, Gloryhoundd.
Hello, how are you doing?
I am doing amazing. Also, I love just all of the shows that you all do with your setup and everything. Your setup is so cool. And I feel like you also have like a couple different like setups in your studio, your house. Where do you film anyways?
I film in my house, and actually, not every room, but slowly every room is going to become a certain portion of my studio. So I've specifically
Ah,
designed rooms and backgrounds for shooting video and for shooting live streaming stuff. So, like,
that's so cool. That's also
yeah,
like your house is like your whole life is basically content creation at that point. You're like it's all integrated.
pretty much. And it makes it really easy, though, to take pictures and stuff because you take pictures, you're like, haha, I have the perfect backdrop.
Yeah, right? Isn't that what we all want in our I mean, that's what I definitely want in my apartment. And I always feel like there are parts of my apartment that are so cluttered and I'm just like, oh, I have to move everything to take one picture. So I
Yes.
feel you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do and where we can find both you and your work online as well. Give us the lowdown.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm Gloryhoundd with 2Ds, and you can actually go to gloryhound.com and find all of my stuff. I'm on Twitch and Twitter and Facebook, and we do all of our live content usually on YouTube. That's where the majority of our content goes to. And we're on Facebook too. And we do live playthroughs of board games, app based games, and some video games, as well as we do sort of like previews for Kickstarters. We talk a lot about Kickstarters on our shows. We do a Kickstarter show, and then we do previews for Kickstarters that are more like little teasers, like something you would see like a movie teaser or something. I always feel like I want to ramp them up that way. So they're informational, but also exciting to watch at the same time. And I also do stuff for the Game Boy Geek and for Dice Tower as well. So like I do stuff for all sorts of people.
Wow, so busy. I love it. And yeah, I love the Kickstarter content that y'all do. It's really, really cool. And the other thing that I really love about it is the fact that you're not sponsored by any of these Kickstarters to do this
Yeah.
content. And that's like part of your policy, which I love, which is like, we just want to actually like highlight these things, but from a neutral point of view, so that like our opinions are never going to be skewed by, somebody's investment, which I love.
Absolutely. That's a huge part of our Kickstarter show. And that's originally why we started the show, is because Kickstarter was starting to take off at the time and it was starting to get really big. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm backing all these games and I have so much information about this. Like I want to share that with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely didn't want it sponsored by any game companies or anything, because I wanted it to be raw information and ideas that I had about the different things and where I've tracked games through things. And now it's become like this really amazing collaborative process where we have longtime viewers that are also backing a ton of Kickstarters. So like if I didn't think of something, maybe they thought of something, or maybe they've been tracking a different company different than me. So we provide so much information on Kickstarters, and then a bunch of background on game companies and if they've delivered a bunch. And it's not only a really fun crowd to hang out with, but if you are interested in joining the kind of like Kickstarter crew, or even now GameFound, and going in there and backing games, it's a great informational source where you don't feel like you're going to get taken advantage of, and you're still going to get that same hype. You're going to get excited. We're all excited about the games and everything. We don't, I think, like tear things apart, but we do make sure that everybody knows, like, oh, this is a first time creator. They might be late in their games because they don't have all these processes established and stuff. And so we give really informational stuff so you can make the best decision and the best purchase for what you want to do. So
I love that. And like just make an informed decision, which I think is so important,
yeah.
right? Especially with Kickstarter too. I think the other thing is, like you were saying, like when it did take off, like it's just expanded so much to the point that it's really hard to keep track of just all the Kickstarters that are going on. And you could easily miss something that you're like, oh, I would have really loved to have backed that, but I didn't even know was happening. That actually happened to me the other day, almost with some games. Oink was just on Kickstarter, and a friend of mine messaged me to be like, oh, you need to like jump on this. And I was like, oh, I didn't even see this in my Kickstarter. So yeah, I think it's really good to sort of have that information because it's easy to miss stuff. And yeah, this is also like, even I think I just started getting into Kickstarter like last year. So it's, if you're also just getting in now, you're probably like, I'm really overwhelmed. So there's a lot of things. So
Yeah.
Gloryhound definitely has a great resource for you if you are like me and you feel overwhelmed sometimes.
I totally agree. So many
Yeah.
Kickstarters come out. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I couldn't imagine at this point keeping up with everything without all of the extra resources, with people, like you said, emailing you or something like, did you check out this game? Because I get those
Yeah.
too. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even see this. Like, how
Yeah.
did I miss this?
Yeah. I mean, and that's why it's so awesome when, there's content creators out there that want to put in that time and effort to be like, I'm going to like do the research so people can really like know and not miss something. I think that's awesome. And how long have you been making content for then? Like you've been doing lots of stuff, and I've definitely also seen you around at other conventions and stuff too in the past when we could go to the conventions.
Absolutely. It's been quite a while. Originally, I started off making Kickstarter content as like a podcast. So I think I spent probably about a year and a half with just doing a podcast, not even really in like, I guess, like the board game media area. It was just like a podcast that I did like way off here in like some entertainment space. And then after that, after I joined more of like the board game media and stuff, and a whole group of excellent content creators that are out there, that I went ahead and started looking at, I was like, oh, I should be doing this on video. So I think we started our video portion of it up, where basically we took, our podcast and switched it all over to video. And that's been, I think it was only like a year ago or something, or maybe like a year and like a few months. It hasn't really been that long that we've been doing video for it. So I'm really happy that we did bring it to a video platform, because that's where it shines best. Because when we're talking about things, we're like, oh my God, look at these amazing components. They're little bears. And then I can pull it up and be like, look at the little bears. They're so cute.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like it does not, like, that shocks me just because of how polished everything looks with your content, that it's only been that long, because I feel like you have quickly become a master of like content making. Like, I just want to throw that out there. Like, this is content
Aw.
that, yeah, I mean, I was watching you play, I think it was Unmatched. And you were just even showing, I had to go back and watch this a few times, this one moment. It was the part where you were showing, I think it was Bruce Lee that you were playing with, which is the add-on, and you were showing the base and how it's sparkly just up to your
Yes.
camera. And this is the stuff that I'm always like, multiple cameras break my brain. But just seeing you use it and just seeing the camera actually like autofocus, and then I was like watching the one shot, and then I was like, oh, I need to watch this again and watch you like lift it up in the other camera, and it was so cool. But yeah, you really do get a really good sense for what the components are, and what the play feels like with the content, and it's just very clean. Like, it's really good.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, we really want to highlight the game and usually the uniqueness of the game. So if we're
Mhm.
playing like a tower building game or something, I think we played a like Kodama 3D where those,
Oh yeah,
little trees get built up. And so I had even a third camera on the side so you could see the building from the side and then you could see up
like
top
from the
how it
top.
looks. Yeah, so because I want
That's
to
so
have that
cool.
immersive experience for everybody. So
Mm.
when they go to make a purchase, then they're like, oh, okay, I've seen this from all angles. Like, I really
Yeah.
like this. Or, oh man, I feel like this is missing. And maybe I'll make a different decision.
Yeah, and I mean, I also feel like that's a really good way to also do justice to the game, because like Kodama 3D is a game that like you don't just want a bird's eye view for that game. You don't just
Right.
want even a front view. I think having both cameras is kind of really important to understand just like really how 3D this version is, and how beautiful I think it looks as well. Kodama 3D.
Absolutely. Or
Yeah.
even just like fun games like Dinogenics or something like that. Seeing all
Yeah.
the dinosaurs from that side angle where you see them in all the little pens and stuff is just like, it's such a fun experience to be able to share with people rather than
Yeah.
just the overtop view where you're like, okay, I can see in this two-dimensional plane everything that's there. But having that third camera angle and stuff come in is just, it's a lot of fun. I love doing it.
Yeah, I love it. It looks great. And so you've been doing this then, I guess, only for a few years, but it feels like forever just from watching your stuff. When did you first, as a human, get interested into board games for you?
Oh, wow. Okay. So I first got interested in board games back in 2000.
Uh-huh.
And I was in a game store and I was playing role playing games at the time with a group of people there. And someone was like, oh, have you ever played Munchkin before? And I was like, what's Munchkin? Like, I've never played this game before. And I ended up playing it. And it had just come out at the time. It's hard to believe that. Like, Munchkin has been around since like 2000. Like, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
So, and I had so much fun playing that. And I didn't realize that there were these fun sort of board games. I knew there was war games. I knew that there was RPGs at the time. And I didn't know that there was a fun board gaming space. And that's when I first started getting into board games. But I don't think I really started getting heavily into board games where I became like a collector until about like 10 years ago, whenever my kid was born. And it was like, okay, well, I have to stay home all the time. I can't go out and do all these RPGs because I was like hardcore into RPGs at the time. And I was like, I need like a supplement. Like, I need a gaming supplement that I can like put down, pick up. I can play it when I want. And board games like filled that void because you can always play a board game for an hour and then come back to it or play a little mini game in between something that you're doing. And it just became really easy to do with my time. So it's been a little while. I've been into games for a while.
Yeah, I mean, 2000, that is, yeah, 21 years now. So that's a good amount of time. I also love that Munchkin is your gateway game. I just feel like Munchkin is this game that is like such a gateway game for everybody. And then as we get more invested in the hobby, it becomes, I don't know. I always talk about this when people say it's their gateway game, that people will then, I don't know if you've met people that like are Munchkin haters, these Munchkin haters.
Yes.
Yeah, that almost, but you almost know that like they probably also loved Munchkin at one point, but it's just been a while for them.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, and I get it. I get why people feel both ways about it. But I'm also like, for me, Munchkin was also a huge gateway game just into, because I always loved games, but that was like my gateway game as well into like the whole world of hobby gaming and like what is a fresh game now, other than just like older games that I was like, these are classics. That was all I played. So,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And Munchkin is such a fun, like just such a fun game. Like it's so punny and stuff. And
Yeah.
like bringing that silliness in, that's where it hits me because I love silly things so much. And I was just like, oh my gosh, not everything has to be a war game and not everything has to be like an RPG. Like it can be like a fun in the middle. Like it can be silly
Yeah.
and zany and then also have like strategy and stuff to it. So I thought that was really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes people forget that like game is in the title of board games, right? Like we forget that that's part of the thing. And I think Munchkin definitely brings out that fun element, especially with all of the what's the word I'm looking for? All of the flavor text in that game.
Yes.
Oh, it's some good flavor text.
Right? It always surprises me. Some of the sets I'm just like, how do they keep coming up with all these puns? I wish I was that punny, honestly. Like I
I
really
know.
wish I was that punny in real life, you know?
I know. There's got to be at least a few writers on Munchkin. I mean, definitely at this point, but yeah, I wonder how many people were involved in coming up with all of those puns at the time. And we were kind of talking about this before we jumped into it, but yeah, like I just love all of the setups in your videos and the aesthetic that you sort of have. Like it's very neon, it's very fun, it's very like it's very trendy as well. Like I hope that isn't a bad word, but I mean that
No,
in
not
a
bad
really
at
good
all.
way. Yeah. And I was just wondering when it comes to sort of your aesthetic and the brand, what kind of inspired it? What inspired the name Gloryhound as well? And how did everything kind of come together?
Oh my goodness, those are big questions.
I know. I know. I mean,
So,
we know you started with the podcast, so
yes.
you moved from that. So what was that even transition like for you when you were like, oh, this has to go here now?
Well, okay, so Gloryhound started when I used to play World of Warcraft, and I probably played World of Warcraft, I don't know, for like a good 3 or 4 years, like hardcore. I was raiding and I was Gloryhound. And then my significant other was Glory Hog because we were always fighting for like,
Love it.
first place for everything. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a perfect transition going into gaming because it was already like my gaming name. So like I felt like that's where it belonged with that. And as far as like the whole like backdrop and everything, my inspiration for all that, it was like I wanted to be eye catching, like
Mm-hmm.
I wanted somebody to see my stream and not be like, oh, this is another board game stream. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted somebody to just be intrigued just by the look of what was on here because entertainment wise, like I wanted everything. Like that's why I do 3 camera angles. Like that's why I have the backgrounds the way they do, is because I want people to be immersed in what I bring them and not just me talking with a bunch of board games in the back, like in front of somebody. Because I guess that's kind of part of like my personality. Like I want you to be all involved and everything.
I love it. And yeah, I totally feel that. I know what you mean. Like it's very dynamic and it's very it definitely feels like it's not just about like the games and here's what we're doing.
Right.
It's like about you as the people and being present and being your own like quirky beautiful selves. And I definitely picked up on all of that, which is I think what makes it so eye-catching. I think because it comes from like within you. It's like this very vibrant and fun. I mean, I feel like that's also your energy. So yeah,
Oh,
I think it works really well.
it's like a compliment session here. I'm like, oh, thank you so
Well,
much. I'm
you're
gonna be like
welcome.
so happy after this stream.
Good, good. That's what we want here. That's what we want here on the show. I'm
Oh,
glad I could give that to you.
we've always really wanted to bring out, especially like when we talk with our chat and everything, like we want to get to know people in chat. We want this to everything I do to just be really super immersive visually, immersive like with entertainment, immersive with the board games and the mechanics and strategy as we're playing, with our conversations that we're having with people. We want people to have an experience whenever they come to our channel, not just, oh, I'm going to watch this because I need these board game facts or these board game lists. Like, I want them to walk away going, wow, that was really different in like every way possible.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's honestly with content how you hook people, right? Like how you get people coming back because people are coming back for more than if you make it just about like, oh, this is like a fact, it's like, oh, well, I can go anywhere to get facts, right?
Right.
Like I could go to this place or this place. So why is this place different? And I think you've nailed that on the head with how to do that. So it's really cool.
Oh.
And why is it, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to keep complimenting you because I think the content's good. So I'm not going to apologize for it, actually. Take the compliments.
Thank you.
Yeah. I also love that it came out of WoW names, which I now, knowing this, I'm just like, wow, I just love this even more now because I also used to play WoW and like gave a few years of my life to WoW. And
Yeah.
I miss it sometimes a lot,
Me
but
too. Me too.
I know, but it's yeah, it's a hard place to go because you're just like, man, I'm not gonna have a life if I play this game. I know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind
Yeah.
of where it went. It was like, this is so time consuming. Like, we can't do this anymore. And
Yeah.
at the time we had like sold our gaming computers. I'm like, we're quitting WoW. I'm like, I'm selling these computers. It's happening. And that's actually how we stopped. So I was like, all right, we didn't have computers for like probably a couple of years. And we're like, whoo, okay, we got it out of our system. We got it out of our
Cleanse.
system.
You need to do that though. It's so true because WoW is like this thing, it starts out as a small thing and then it just like can take over your life. So I feel
Yes.
that. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
now you do play games. So just so everyone knows out there, we've come back to video games and everyone is Gloryhound and her partner are healthily back in the realm
Yes.
of video games.
Absolutely. We are. We're being very healthy about the video games
Yes.
now.
I was watching you play actually Vampire the Masquerade, the
Oh,
game, which
yeah.
I thought was so much fun and so funny. Also, you both have so many jokes. Especially actually Dr. Gloryhog, he always cracks me up and I was like watching
Yeah.
it. And also if you just want to laugh out there and you're like, what should I watch that is gaming and will make me laugh? This is good content for you, trust me. Especially
Yeah.
with all the references.
The doctor cracks me up. And it's so funny. I'm so glad you watched that one because that one had me like, there's plenty of times during stream where I'm like crying, like cry
Yeah.
laughing so hard because the doctor will get started. I'll start making comments. Our chat will start making comments. And then it just like steamrolls after that. And then I'm like in tears. I'm like, thanks for everybody making me cry today. Like,
Cry tears of joy.
yes.
Yeah, also it made me want to play. I've never played Vampire the Masquerade in like any sense of anything and I love vampires and I was like watching it and I'm like, I feel like every corner these days that I turn there's Vampire the Masquerade is like around the corner and I'm just like, oh gosh,
Yeah.
I need to like get more in this world. What am I
You
doing?
totally should. Vampire the
Yeah.
Masquerade is like one of my all-time favorite RPGs. And I know recently too, Renegade did Vampire the Masquerade Rivals, the card game. And I was so into
Mm.
that. Like I'm like in season 0 of your tournament. I'm like, I want to play this game. So excited.
Yes. Yes, the tournament. Yes, I'm so excited for all of that amazing organized play content that we have coming up. And yeah, I still haven't played Rivals myself, but I did watch people play it and I was like, "Ooh, this is tasty. This is really really good. Like I need to play it." For sure. And we have World of Darkness now, so there's like lots of
I
good content that's going
know.
to be coming up.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. When I
It's
saw
crazy.
that you guys were taking over World of Darkness, like my heart just like leapt out of my chest. I was like, what a perfect group of people to take over World of Darkness because oh my gosh, like I want so many things done with that. Like they're in good hands. They're in good hands.
I 100% agree with you. Yes, thank you. But yeah, I 100% agree. I'm very psyched. I mean, so many good RPG things around the corners for us, I think. But yes, so when it comes to playing these games too, and getting that audience opinion and sort of getting involved with the community, why is that? I guess so important to you because I definitely see that effort to really go in there, and even on the site, like you do a lot of stuff where you get people to like vote on content that you're making, and that's super cool. Why do you feel the need to do that?
I really like our channel would not be the channel that it is without our community. And I feel like investing back in that community all the time is super important, and as you're streaming and stuff like that, you really get to know everybody that's on there. Like there are people who have probably like come and gone, like they'll come and they'll watch for a while and then maybe they'll be gone for a few minutes and come back. And you get so connected with that group of people. It's like you're like, oh, where's Vincent gone for a while? I hope he's okay. Like you get really invested in that. And it's always been a part of board games in general. Like people play board games to play board games with people. And so why not whenever you're playing board games online, like you should also be making those same connections that you would, because I could just go ahead and sit at home and with Dr. Gloryhog in the other room and play board games on our own by ourselves. But I can tell you, it would be entertaining, but probably not nearly as entertaining as with our chat there. also entertaining us as we're entertaining them, and just kind of everybody feeding off of each other and just having a really great time. And so I know that I'm super happy to be able to bring that to everybody out there. And I mean, the community is always giving back. Like, I appreciate our community so much. They're so amazing. Like, just so amazing and so funny. Like, we have a really funny community. So
Always good. Always good. That's a plus. Yeah, I love that. I also think I think you kind of hit it on the head when you said community, you know, and I think that is so important to what we do, why we connect with board games. That's why we all want to sit down at tables, right? Like we all want to connect with
yeah.
somebody in the present moment. Yeah. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's like a huge difference too in many ways, although not in all ways, from like the world of video games, which I usually find I get more into video games when I want a little bit more of a disconnect from life. Even if I'm connecting with people online, it's like still kind of disconnected. But board games is like, oh no, we're all here. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think and I think that's a really cool way to integrate it, especially right now where like we can't really all be at the table together. So it's like a really nice way to be like, hey, you can still come to the table. And you know, it's also really nice when you have someone you play board games with forever. And not to say that, you know, you don't love the people you play board games with forever, but it's really cool to actually, I agree, to like welcome people in and be like, hey, you're part of this. And now we also get to interact with each other and with you, which makes it even more fun for us. That's great. I love it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we've even built some of our content around having our community interact as we're playing those particular board games. So we'll play a lot of those like party style games and stuff. And whenever we play party style games, we always have our chat either judging us in our party and like what we're doing and everything, or having them vote on things as we're actually doing the game and stuff. And so just bringing in that community and making sure that everybody realizes that we're all still connected right now and that we can all still hang out and talk about board games and enjoy board games together is so important, just especially right now. Like I'm so happy to be able to bring that like community. Like it's super important.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's really cool too, because I mean, you know, there's a lot of content you can go out there where you can watch other people play games, but there isn't as much content out there where you can not just watch people play games, but kind of play games with people while you're watching, you know, where you get to have a say or get involved. And I think that is really fun. You're also selling me on more of this content. I'm like, oh, I need to, like, every time
well,
y'all are online, I need to get there, come check it out.
Absolutely.
So we're entering about the halfway point. So I'm going to be giving out that giveaway code word for all of you. And I'm going to talk about it as well in a second. But so the giveaway word today for our game, which is Terror Below, we have puppers is the code word. Puppers, like cute little puppers. Rough. So Desiree will have that link for you in the chat. And I actually picked that word because I was kind of also checking out your Patreon, which is super cool, where people can basically, if you're wondering, you know, when you're making this Kickstarter content and you're not getting sponsored by anyone, how can you make it so that, you know, you stay neutral the entire time? Well, Gloryhound actually has an amazing Patreon where you can go and support the show so that they can do things like, you know, keep the Kickstarter as neutral as possible and not rely on sponsors to do that content for you, which is awesome. And I think so important. And I know your community is great because I've watched some of the streams that you've done and heard the interactions from people. So I already know you probably have an awesome Patreon community. And anyways, every tier is a sort of dog, some kind of doggo reference. I think the best one is, what are you? You're like a good doggo, a good dog.
Good doggo, yeah.
Yeah, good doggo. That's the highest tier you can be.
That was like so much fun to go over too. It was like we just basically took a day and like wrote down every ridiculous dog name. We were like, how about a small yapper? Like,
yeah. Who doesn't want to be a small yapper? So
right.
Cute. Also, do you have a dog? Because I feel like I saw a dog. I don't know if I didn't see a dog, but I thought I saw like a dog move through in one of the
yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have two dogs, and the dogs probably make a little bit of an appearance here and there. Sometimes we'll pick them up and show everybody, but we do have our cat Wesley, and you can see the picture of the vampire Wesley here. So sometimes, especially on our Kickstarter days, we allow the cat to come in and hang out with us and stuff. So sometimes you get a visit by the cat, and she like gets all up in the camera. And sometimes you see cat butt, which I apologize about, but because a cat, she's a cat on the internet. She's got to show everything off.
Of course, that's
But
how cats be.
right. But sometimes you get to see Wesley as well. So yeah, we get to involve our animals in it a little bit too.
That's awesome. That's so cute. Yeah, I thought I saw it was just more of like a like checking the dog out as the dog was coming through the room, or it might have been
Right.
Wesley actually. I don't know. Yeah, I
Well,
don't remember if there was a name mentioned.
I've thought about dog cam, having a dog cam up at some point. I'm
Yeah.
like, we need a dog cam in this house. And the doctor's like, I don't know. I'm like, that may be a little much to get a whole camera for a dog. I'm like, oh, but the community would love it.
The community would love it. I support it. My vote
Okay.
is yes. I
See?
think you should do it. Yeah.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Because I definitely think people would love that. Oh my goodness. I also just love when there's streamers or content creators out there that have animals and like allow their animals to like get involved in some way in the content, because obviously who doesn't love cute animals? And so if you're making cool content and you have cute animals, I'm like, this is just a win-win for me watching. Like I'm like, I have all of the warm fuzzies. It's good.
Right? I want to see
Yeah.
everybody's animal. Okay. If you have an animal,
Yeah.
just show them off
Show it
on screen a
off.
little bit. So, because I just need the good animal feels for my day. Okay.
Exactly. And people are always asking me like, Amanda, where are all your cats? And I'm like, I have no animals. So there's no animals.
Oh,
People are like, oh, because you seem like you have cats. And I'm like, I mean, I would have cats, but I don't. I have
well,
told people I have vampire plants, which basically means all of my plants are dead. That's all I have.
well, see,
Uh,
then you need extra pet pictures then, because then you need to live like through everybody else and be like, oh,
I
that is such a
do.
cute little pupper. Oh my gosh.
I do. So it really does help me out when I'm watching content creators who have animals and put them up there, because I'm just like, I'm living through you. So thank you.
Right?
Also, speaking of the pictures on the wall behind you, do you have like a few pictures of dice back there? Because I was
I
like watching them.
do.
Can you tell
Yeah.
me about the pictures of dice and where they came from?
So I love taking pictures of dice because I have like so many dice. Like, obviously, because I used to play
RPG.
RPGs hardcore. Yeah. So, like, the
Yeah.
amount of dice I have, it's a lot. Like, I wish I could show you the wall there. I have like a whole wall of them in
Dice?
little tiny jars. Yeah. Of dice in like little tiny jars. I have like dice sitting right up here in
Yeah.
like on the
Jars.
table, like literally right now. Like,
Just dice everywhere.
dice everywhere.
How like could you fit like a giant mimic with all of these dice if you had a hollowed out mimic, or like what level of
Oh god.
dice are we talking? Like how big?
Oh
Like
my
a
goodness.
chest this big?
Okay.
Could you fill it?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, Oh,
Definitely.
okay.
Yeah. Like I have dice in multiple rooms and stuff. So
Ooh. Any room you're in, if you need to roll for
yes.
something,
Yeah.
Gloryhound's got you, basically.
Yeah. If you need like a roll for agility or something right away, just boom, you like pick up a dice from a room and like you go for it. Okay.
I love that.
But
That's
these
like
pictures, oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, go. No, you go ahead.
I was like, these pictures right here are actually pictures of my dice that I've taken pictures of. And I love the pictures so much of my dice collection that I hung them on the wall because I was like, man, these are pretty.
Yeah. So you took those pictures yourself.
I did.
Yeah, they're really beautiful. Like I was just like watching, and I was like, where did these pictures of dice come from? Like they look so striking in the background. And I was just wondering. And then I was like, I don't know what the story is with the dice. Like I knew there must be a story. And I also love that everything that is in your setup kind of does have a story. Like there's nothing that's just, oh, we just picked this because whatever, just like this. Like that's not really a thing.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Everything does have a story and stuff. I mean, I have like lots of little stuffed animals and stuff. So like when I was building that background piece, I was like, everything in here, like no matter the detail, like has to be like a little part of me in all of that, you know?
I love that. That's so awesome. Yeah, well, they definitely look super cool. And I was just going to say that like you have dice in every room. I'm the person that always has dice in my bag. So like we'll be out somewhere and then someone will be like, "Oh, I need to like make a decision." And I'll be like, "Oh, here, roll a d20." And they're like, "Why do you just have dice?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just always have dice on me just in case I'm
I
somewhere,
love
I
people like
guess."
that. I love
Yeah,
people
right?
like that.
Why do
Yeah.
I also used to be that person that always had a deck of cards with them, and people would be like, "Why do you have those?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just like to shuffle." Now I hate shuffling, but I used to just sit at bars and just shuffle cards while I'd like have a drink. I probably thought I was so cool, to be real. Like I was probably shuffling those cards like, I'm like Gambit. Look at me shuffle these cards.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. It's like so amazing. You do, you feel super cool. Nope, everybody wants to be like Gambit, okay?
I mean,
Gambit
everyone
so
does
cool.
want to be like Gambit. Gambit is
right?
probably one of the coolest mutants around. Let's be
so
real.
suave, so suave, so cool, like fairy, you know, he always has his little cards around, like flips them out, like, dang.
I mean, it would also be really cool if you could be like Gambit and like charge a card and then like blow it up. But
well, yeah, that would take care of a lot of problems for me. So I mean,
blow them up.
Right.
Oh my goodness. You have to be careful when you're rolling your dice, though. That's the only thing, because you might kinetically charge those.
Fair. That's fair. Yeah. But if you ever like lost a board game or you didn't like want to play anymore, you just be like, boom, oops. I don't know what happened here. It's like better than a table flip, I think. Right?
Yeah, it is. Just accidentally blow up the game.
Right? Just be like, oh no, sorry, we cannot play anymore. Bye.
I love it. Speaking of playing games as well, you have some, that was like the worst segue I think I've done, but that's fine. But yeah, I did notice when you were playing games, you do have, what equipment are you using? Because like your camera's autofocus, that's like your what do you call that? Your bird's eye view, is like so sharp. Like I'm watching you lift up pieces and your autofocus is just like done. Or are you focusing that as well?
Well, I have a Canon EOS R. Actually, I have it right here. I have the Canon EOS R, and this is the 35mm lens. And this is actually what I usually have overhead.
Yeah.
And this has autofocus on it, but what I do is I can control this with my phone because it can go like on Bluetooth and stuff. So I actually have a phone control for the auto camera. So if something's weird or something's too light or it's not focusing right or whatever, I can always make those adjustments manually. So this has been like amazing. And when I got this camera, I knew I was like, I'm going to have the best camera overhead. Like, I don't even care what my other cameras are. I'm like, I want to have the most amazing overhead camera because I feel like that's like the board game money shot is the overhead, shot for everything. And I want everybody to be able to see every detail of everything. And originally, whenever I started doing all this, I started with using green screens, and I would use those to get like those really close-up shots, because looking at pieces up close is so important whenever you're trying to figure out if this is the sort of like quality or sort of game you want and everything. And with green screens, you have to have the right type of lighting for them. And of course, nothing green shows up, or if you have blue, you have to really watch your colors and stuff. And when you're making all those adjustments to make the green screen really, really work, you are messing with the contrast and colors of things. And I wanted the overhead shot to be raw and in the colors, the true colors that the game is in. And I wanted it to be exactly what you're going to see and receive in your board game, And so that overhead shot, that's the Canon EOS R for that. So it's
okay. Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, I was really happy with it too.
Yeah. And the autofocus is impressive. And I love that you're just like, I could just be over here on my phone and fix it. Like if I have a problem, I feel like you'd also be over there on your phone fixing it, and I wouldn't even notice you did that. You'd just be like so sly about it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, because I feel like there's a lot of sly things that happen behind the scenes that we don't see. Like I think you actually need another camera just so we can see like all of the things you're doing behind the scenes while you're playing the game and doing.
Oh my gosh. It would be a mess. It would be a mess if you all actually saw like the setup outside of it with all the wires and cables and everything that needs to be like within arm reach of me. You'd be like, oh my gosh, that's a mess.
Yeah. I mean, hey, that's how setups always look from behind, right? When you're looking behind the cameras.
Right.
I love the mess. I always find it so fascinating. What about the light as well for that shot? Because you have, what is the table that you use?
So this is the Adler table by Game Toppers, and they're one of our sponsors for our playthroughs of games and everything. So Robert Berkey, is it Robert? I think it's just Berkey. I don't know. I can't remember. I apologize in advance for that. But the creator of Game Toppers, he was nice enough to go ahead and give us this table to go ahead and use, which has made everything so nice because you get the width in like length and everything that you need for all the board games, because before we were playing on like a fold out table basically. So that's been super helpful. Wait, what was the original question? I totally forgot. I got
Oh, I was
excited about the
asking
table.
about the lighting for the table.
Oh yeah. Okay. The lighting for the table. So these, the LEDs, or just how we have all the lights going?
When we're looking down at the game, sort of what is the light that's illuminating that game is kind of what I was wondering about.
Here's the whole lighting thing. The lighting, I spent a lot of time on my lighting, like a lot of time. Okay. I have one light over here that's a LED that has a blue filter on it. I have one light back here that's LED and has a blue filter on it. I have one light outside here that illuminates this because it's at a different level here. And I have one light in front of me at a very, very dim setting. So we almost play in the dark, which is kind of funny because you're like, wow, like, why is everything lit up so nicely? We actually play in the dark. What it is the cameras that we use, we're able to go ahead and go at a super low f-stop on here. And so it lets in more light. And so we're able to record everything in darker exposures. So the reason why all of my room being illuminated and so glowy and stuff is actually because I have this camera and then I have a Canon M50 in front of me that I can program for different light settings. So this one I will program to make the table look brighter, even though it's not. So even though we're playing in a pretty dark setting here and everything, this is able to go ahead and capture all of the light that is produced by just a single ring light that's very dimly set in front of me. So it's
that's
a lot
so
of
great though,
different
because it
stuff.
does make it look really glowy. Like it makes it look almost like a little ethereal when you're watching, and it's very like, it really draws you in. So, but then you don't miss, and that's what I was wondering, because I was like, I feel like the lighting is so like dark and like fun, but then I can see everything. So how's that possible?
Yeah, it's all because of the lenses. Yeah, and the f-stop that I use. And I specifically, when I moved to the Canons, that was the look I was going for. I was like, I need these cameras because I wanted my background to be super lit. And the only way to do that, because you can't do it with a webcam or anything like that, you just can't make the same adjustments with everything. The only way to do that is messing with the f-stops on the cameras. So I have a different f-stop on the camera in front of me and a different f-stop on the camera overhead. So you get different light settings on that. So the overhead camera looks clear, crisp, very light. And then this one is able to have that darker, moodier, glowy look to it. So
yeah, but it's the same room, and you're like,
same room. Yeah.
Same room. Didn't change the light for the shots.
Right.
It's all happening at the same time. Yeah, it looks super cool. Wow. That is your cameras. Look at you go. That's very impressive. And the lights too. Although the nice thing about lights, at least, is you can kind of just play with your settings and be kind of like, I'm just going to record some stuff and see what looks good, and be like, okay, that was that setting and that's that setting. Now I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I did a lot of research on all of the lighting and the cameras in order to create the whole thing. It was months of planning to be able to figure out what I needed, just to kind of like enact that envision that I had in my head for it all. So,
well, it paid off, and the hard work shows, because it looks amazing. Yeah, it looks really cool. Yeah, you're welcome. So when it comes to making this content too, and sort of like, diving into video and even starting from the podcast, if there's other people out there that want to make content, and I know there are people out there, do you have any advice for people who are looking to kind of get started and who have maybe never done this before?
I think that my biggest piece of advice for everybody is to get involved in the community, because when you become involved in the community, not only do you get information and knowledge on all of the things that your community is doing, like little things like this. You might not have known how my camera and lighting and everything was set up, but if you followed me and you were on here, you're like, oh, wow, now I know how to do that. So just following different people in the community and stuff is really important, because you get those little tips and tricks, but also because community building is so important, making all of those really awesome friends in the community to help you out and along your way, and to ask questions of, and to just kind of help give you direction or review maybe something that you shot and you're like, is this any good? I don't know. Like, that makes such a huge difference. Like, whenever I started doing stuff, there was definitely a difference of me just doing it off in my corner and doing podcasting. And then all of a sudden I hit that community and I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much information. And then I started meeting people in person like Suzanne and Bebo and what is the board game pinup girl and like just all these people in the community. And I was able to take thoughts and ideas and get information from them. And it made my content so much better and just like made then it was like a support system, you know, like I know I can go online and be like, hello everyone, this isn't working, what's happening, somebody help me. And then there's going to be somebody out in the community that's like, well, here's some information, you know, like they'll be able to help me along. So community building is super important.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I mean, it puts you in a position too, where like later down the road, maybe there's someone that comes along, you know, that doesn't know something and now you know it. And it's kind of like we all make each other stronger, right? When we band together. So yeah. Also the board game community is such a nice community. Like people will usually really like help you and like appreciate just you being present. So it's a good community
Absolutely.
to dive
Yeah.
into, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of people that I've talked to and have schooled me. And then again, like you said, I've turned around. I've had plenty of meetings and conversations with people that are just like, how do you do this thing? And I'm like, let me tell you, I'll tell you all the beef. Hold on.
Love it. That's awesome. And when it comes to the show as well, there's so many different segments that you do. Like you do playthroughs, but the playthroughs as well. The cool thing about the playthroughs too is it's kind of like not just a playthrough in terms of like this is how we're gonna play the game. Look at us play the game. It's more of like a should you play this game? Is this a game that's good for you? We're going to find that out today. We're going to kind of examine and kind of look at all the standpoints of who this would be good for and find that home. And I love content that focuses on that because there's so many games that come out each year and I believe so many of them deserve homes and so many people just don't know where to look. And so I think that's great because it's not about like being like, oh, this game's terrible or this game's great, like a game review. It's more of like a game assessment. It's like we're gonna go through and just kind of see like where does this go? Let's find a home for it.
100% it. And I've always like I will.
Uh-oh, looks like we lost her for a second.
Oh my, Gloryhound seems to have frozen, but that's all right. I'm sure.
Will not do game reviews because I don't feel like you have everything back.
Yeah, everything is back. You're good.
Okay. So the should do play is super, super important because I feel like not every game is for every person, you know, and that doesn't make that game bad. Like just because I don't like a game because it has a lot of dice rolling and chance in it doesn't mean that's a bad game. There's plenty of people in the world that are going to love that game. They're going to care for that game. They're going to show that game to other people, or maybe that's going to be their gateway game to other games. And I feel like, especially having different people play games, like me and the doctor have very different game tastes and everything, and highlighting, oh, this game does this really well. And maybe if you don't like this in a game, you might not want to, get this game. Or if you like this, you'll really, really love this in this game. Like giving you that insight is way more informational. And that stuff only really comes up in playthroughs, like whenever you're playing games,
Mm-hmm.
And we always tell everybody it's a should you play, not a how to play. Like we're not there to teach you the game. We're there to enjoy the game, talk to you, answer your questions about the game, show you kind of the mechanics in action, like if it's a really complicated game and we're struggling going through the game and stuff like that, like maybe that isn't the game for you as you're looking through and you're going, oh man, this looks really complicated. And it looks like they're having to keep track of a lot of stuff. I'm not good at that. Like maybe I shouldn't get that game. Mm-hmm. Or, oh my gosh, this looks amazing. It's so intricate and detailed. They have every single thing refined in this. I love this game. And I love highlighting games in that way because I think that's what really makes the game shine. Like, I don't want to make the decision for you. I'm here to show you all of the things that the game has to offer. And I much rather do that than any sort of board game review. I think it's so much more fair to the game because just because I don't like, say, Dice Throne Adventures or something like that, that doesn't mean Dice Throne Adventures is a bad game. I just might not like co-op dice rolling games or something. It might hit too many game styles that I don't like,
Yeah.
Whereas my partner's like, oh my God, this is the most amazing game ever.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't want to
100%.
squash that, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And I am the same way. Like, I also know the games that I don't like, right? So people will be like, oh, well, what do you think of this game? Well, I don't like this game, but I like to like preface it with like, well, I don't like it, but that doesn't mean that you might not like it. Like, I just
Yeah.
don't like it because I don't like these things in games. And so I know that about myself. And so that's all that means. And there are a lot of people out there. I mean, I worry when there are gamers that come at it from like, oh, I'm just going to play whatever somebody recommends, because I'm just like, you might miss out on something that you really love because of that, because that person didn't love it. But like, you
Yeah.
might not be the same person as, I
Yeah.
mean, no one's the same person as anyone. What am I
And
saying?
I don't want to do that for anybody. Like, I don't want somebody to
Yeah,
miss out on something amazing just because I'm like, I don't like dexterity games where you place things on top of other things because like I just don't like it because I have a shaky hand, you know, like that's
yeah, which like is fair. If you have a shaky hand, you might
right.
not like dexterity games, but like doesn't mean no one should ever play a dexterity game because you have a shaky hand, right?
Right. And it doesn't
Yeah,
mean every dexterity game that you're going to play, even if you have a shaky hand, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to hate that game. There might be other
true.
aspects that you like that you can look past that portion. Like,
100%.
so gosh, board games are just like every individual person is so different. So, yeah, I don't think giving an actual review of a game is like a super fair thing to do. All I can tell you is what I like and how I feel about something and show to you all the different things that happened in a game. And then, like, everybody else has to make that decision at home.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I love that. I'm of the same mind. And is that, what is your favorite segment as well? Like, is that your favorite segment, the should you plays, or is there another segment that you love even more? Because you do a few different things
Oh my
on the show
goodness.
that you were
Oh my
talking about sort of at
goodness.
the beginning.
That's really, really hard to say because I love each individual segment so much for so many different reasons. you know, like, I mean, I really love our Kickstarter show because it's so interactive and because I don't have to actually play the game, I can just converse more with people than I normally would when I'm playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that segment so much because of that and because it's such a rewarding thing as far as like helping people make decisions and maybe people will help me make decisions, such a collaborative thing. But like the playthroughs get so funny because
They are really funny. Yeah.
like somebody will like doctor will like cut me off in some sort of game thing and then I'm like I'm ready to like
Why?
rage and then like the comments are like oh she's mad like and so that interaction and everything is so exciting and so much fun. It's so awesome to be able to share that moment with people. And like those are probably, I think, my two favorite segments that I mean, we do the previews, which are fun and cinematic. And I love being able to like express my creativity and stuff with that. But I think the interactiveness of those two segments are just, they're just my favorites. Like, I have so much fun doing them.
Yeah, that's fair. And I can definitely see the fun in both of those. So good picks. And I also was wondering, you recently did Should You Play for the Snallygaster situation, actually. It's a Renegade game.
I know.
Yeah. And so I was wondering, when, I mean, I think we kind of talked about this a little bit, but when it comes to recommending a game in Should You Play, or you know, like, are there any games actually that you even play and Should You Play where you're just kind of like, this game we can't really see a person for it, like this game is just like broken. And also, what is your favorite type of game to play is also what I was wondering.
Okay. So let's start with my favorite game, or else I'm gonna forget it. I'm
All
gonna
right.
forget
Yeah.
the way the questions went. Okay, so my favorite game all time is Dead of Winter.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I really, really like Dead of Winter because you have the secret like bad guy that could or could not be in there. So like you could may or may not. That was like one of my favorite things is like there may or may not be someone betraying us the
Yeah,
entire
the
time.
paranoia of like, you
Yes.
don't know. Yeah.
Yes. I'm
So
like,
every
that
time
is so
someone does
legit.
something, you're like, why did you do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so legit because you could hate your party the entire time, be like, it's one of you, but it could just never be anybody. And having
Yeah.
those crossroads cards in there, being able to make those choices every turn, it added like there was like this really fun like portion of the game where you're going out and you're collecting all these things, but then it added like humanity to it, you know, and like human choices and like human indecision with people and stuff like that and suspicion. And I thought that was like the most amazing merge of things in a board game where you brought the life to it as well as like the mechanics. So that was my favorite game. And I can't remember the other question. What was your other
No,
question?
that's all right. I'll come back to it. Yeah, no, Dead of Winter is amazing, and I 100% agree with you. I'm assuming, did you like Snallygaster situation then? Just based on what you said about Dead of Winter.
I really, really love Snallygaster situation whenever you had the, like, okay, so we played the Bloody Mary portion of it, one of the Bloody Mary games, and you had the hidden movement in there. And the hidden movement portion in that was so much fun because it made you feel like the bad guy could be around any corner. And
yeah.
I know, right? And plus being the kid who was like running it, like, so the kid that was hidden, as well as like operating Bloody Mary, trying to communicate to your group, like your location, and hopefully like not attack your group with those cards, while also trying to carry out the things that you needed to carry out your turn was like so challenging, so challenging. And I hope we got that across so well because like that was so much fun to play in that game, you know? And that was like a whole new level that I've played in games that like I don't usually, you know, you have like a bunch of cards in your hand, maybe you have to make some tough choices, but they only like directly affect you. But since this was affecting not only you, it was affecting the group and it was affecting the information that you were giving the group. Ooh.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I love hidden movement games that also kind of play with the idea of, because I feel like there's a lot of hidden movement games where it's like you versus them, right? Like that's kind of what we do. So a game that takes hidden movement elements of that and then makes it like, oh, but like we're all in this together. But you're still getting the suspense, but you're also getting like from all angles the suspense. It's just, oh yeah, I feel you. I thought you would like it just based on what you said of Dead of Winter. I was like, oh
yes.
Okay.
So, but that in that case, it was one of those things where it's like, I loved the game so much. And then the doctor who doesn't like hidden movement games like at all was like, I don't like hidden movement games. Sorry, everyone. So,
there you go.
I mean, a lot of times on the Should You Plays, that ends up happening where one of us has a very different opinion than the other person, just like in real life with everybody else. So like, for me, I loved those challenges and stuff.
Oh,
looks like we lost her again.
Little freeze. We'll wait. I'm sure it will recover.
And actually, for the doctor, he was like, I can take. Am I back?
Yes, you're back.
Okay.
We gotcha.
So I was like, this is for people who love those sort of games, love hidden movement games, you know, love those suspenseful games, you know? So we love being able to find the right game for the right person.
I love it. And to go back to my other question was just when it comes to the Should You Plays, is there ever a game that you feel like you don't find a home for, that you play it and you're kind of just like, I don't know, this really isn't, like we really can't see this game in someone's hands? Does that ever happen?
Funny enough, the games that we end up feeling like that about are usually like some of our best content, honestly, which is like the funniest thing ever, because at that point we're like, we're going to play this game and we're going to enjoy it at its level, like of silliness or ease of play, or being able to play it while also converse with somebody, and being able to bring that out in the game, I think is super important, because it just shows you that like, if I may only play this game with my kid because it might be a game that is for kids. And so we've run across those sort of games. We've streamed them. The content is still hilarious as ever. And there's still, usually at the end, I'll be like, oh, like this is the sort of game that you would play with family. Like this is a family weight silly game. Like that is what this game is for. Obviously you could see it because we were ridiculously silly the entire time, like as we were playing it. So
I love it. So even the games that you feel like both of you are like, you still finish it and are like, but this could go here, no problem.
Absolutely. Because like, although I might not play it a second time, like there are some people that are going to go ahead and be like, this is an amazing game because it has this, this, and this in it. And like, it's still fun to play and go through the acts and just be light about it. Like,
yeah. Does it happen in the chat too, that you guys are both kind of like, not feeling this, and then in the chat like someone's like, I love this?
Yes,
Does that happen?
that
Yeah, there you go.
absolutely happens.
Love
It
that.
absolutely happens. Yes. And
That's
I'm
so
like,
great.
well, they're gonna love that game then.
Yeah, you're like, well, we found the person. Here,
Right.
this is for you. Yeah, these are for
Exactly.
all of you folks. That's so great. I love that. Wow, that makes me happy. Well, that's all the questions that I have. I know we are approaching that hour mark, but Desiree, do you have any questions for us from the chat?
Yes, actually, there are just a couple here. All right,
Oh,
so question one, what do you like about the crowdfunding process?
Well, starting out with the crowdfunding process, the most important thing to me whenever I started was the fact that I was able to help small publishers make their dreams come true and their game come true, like into my hands physically. And that was so, so, so exciting. And I still believe that is true, although it is much, much harder to have happen now because you have so many big dogs out there taking over that crowdfunding process. But overall, I actually on our Kickstarter shows, a lot of times we will try to highlight probably a crowd-funded campaign that isn't doing as well, or maybe is not getting a seat. We're gonna have Kitty button there. And maybe is not getting as much love along with some of those big dogs. So I actually see it as a remarkable platform to go ahead and put those two things together and go, hey, I think that this crowdfunded project, like Skull Hollow from Pencil First Games, when we started backing some of their stuff, they were first time creators, started, just doing games. I had seen, I think they had like one other one before Skull Hollow or something like that. I don't know. But being able to promote that along with something bigger like a come on game or something like that, it just feels like you're helping the community. I'm like, I get to highlight this with this other game and hopefully more people will back it because I think this is an amazing game. And it was an amazing game. I had so much fun with it. I'm so happy I was able to do that. And I hope in the future I can continue doing that, even though the platform is getting so big with so many people like really, really exercising, like big companies really exercising it.
Awesome. All right, and what are key things you look for in a Kickstarter? Any automatic red flags?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So really famous IPs. I'm really hard on games that have big IPs, like really, really hard on them because I feel like sometimes they can be a cash grab in cases. And so, especially if I have a IP based game that is from a game company I've never heard of before, or I've never worked with before, or I haven't heard much about, I will go into some crazy detail of researching the company and what their Twitter looks like, what their Facebook looks like, if they have a web page, like where they're getting all their information from, if they actually have the IP license and stuff like that. So that's probably my number one red flag is any company like that. My number two red flag would be a first time creator that has not backed anything. So if you go through and you see a first time creator and they've never done anything with board games and I don't know their name or the company or anything, I'm like, again, we're going to go look on Twitter. We're going to go look on Facebook. We're going to go. So I think especially because I'm making like recommendations and stuff like that. And I do want small game companies to survive. I really, really am careful about those two aspects and just really making sure that people know that whenever first time creators do come into the market space, they might not have all of their ducks in a row like they think they do. They might have to change companies that they're manufacturing with mid, not campaign, but as they're trying to get the game created and stuff like that, which can be terribly cumbersome from them and stuff. And just gearing people like, okay, this could happen in this event. Or there have been some campaigns where I've specifically pulled them up and I'm like, ooh, I would not back this campaign, everybody. I don't know if they have the license for this. Okay. So just fair warning. I'm like, I always tell everybody, you can back them if you want to. However, upon my research and stuff like that, I'm not sure they're doing everything that they should be doing. So like I think that's really important.
Like, yeah. This might be risky.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And when there are high risk campaigns, sometimes I don't do it very often, but I do bring them to light who have made lots of money. If they're funded $500,000, I'm like, ooh, this looks risky. They're a first time creator. I don't know who they are. They're doing a Planet of the Apes game and stuff. I'm like, that's a lot of red flags going at what's happening here. I looked down their stuff and I'm like, okay, they went to one convention, but they hardly have any following on Instagram or Twitter, and like Facebook's okay. Like I'm like, how invested are they actually in this project? So I want to make sure that people don't have those things come up, because that stuff does end up happening on Kickstarters, and not as often, I think, as everybody might feel. It really doesn't happen as often as everybody might feel. But whenever you get burned, it hurts so bad. So
I feel like it leaves a mark and it just stays with people, because I definitely have people that are like, oh, I backed that and I just like, and I never got it. And I'm like,
yeah. Out of all the campaigns that we've backed, which is well over, I don't know, I think we're nearing 400 campaigns or something like that. I think only one of them has not been fulfilled. It was a newer game company, and I knew it was risky, but I really, really wanted the product. And I was like, I'm taking a chance, and it didn't pay off, and that's okay. It happens. Like, I'm okay. I'm okay with my one not paying off out of all the other ones that I've backed. So
yeah, sometimes you got to roll the dice if you really want it.
Right. So I hope that money went to wherever it was needed to go. Like, I'm not upset about it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it looks like those are all the questions right now.
Those were great questions. Yeah, those were great questions, especially the second one, because I am literally like taking notes, like, okay, watch out for these things as I'm getting more involved in Kickstarter. I'm trying to like set a limit on my Kickstarter. 400 is a lot. And I am just like, whew, I'm trying to keep it at 3 at a time. That's my goal right now. But it's very challenging to do that, because you fall into this Kickstarter hole and then you're like, oh, but that looks cool and that looks cool.
Yeah.
And so many small companies for sure. And you're just like, oh, but like these people look like they have so much promise and I like want to invest in them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And reviewing 4 Kickstarters a week is not helpful. I'm just saying that. So you go through and you're like, oh, I want this and this one this week. What are we going to do?
Yeah. So many things. Oh my goodness.
But it is a great community. And, if you are interested in Kickstarters, like, so much knowledge from there, so much knowledge from everybody. So
it's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with us, Gloryhound. It was so lovely talking to you. Before you go, can you just remind us who you are, what you do, and where we can find both you and your work online?
Absolutely. I am Gloryhound with 2 Ds. So you can go to gloryhound.com and find me on Twitch and Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. It's pretty much Gloryhound with 2 Ds on everything. And we do most of our content on YouTube. So if you go there, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell, because you want to get notified whenever we go live, because you want to be there whenever we go live so you can talk to us and everything. I mean, it's not mandatory, but I can promise you, you're going to have an amazing time if you do. Okay. If you do make one of them, you're going to have an amazing time. Okay.
I will attest to this. You will have an amazing time. So you should do it. Ring that bell, as we say. All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you, Desiree, as well, behind the scenes, for producing. You can't see Desiree, but she's there. And before we go, just a quick little reminder of some things that are coming up. As I said, Snallygaster Situation is available for pre-order that we talked about. It is super fun. There is also Embarcadero available for pre-order, and the Gravwell second edition, which, if you're like, do I need the second edition? You do, trust me. That's also available for pre-order right now. And we would like to remind you about our Twitch schedule. So if you want to keep up to date with us on Twitch and everything we're doing, check us out there. We have our schedule posted. And yeah, we're going to have lots of cool content coming your way next week. And other than that, I'm going to give you that giveaway word one more time. So our giveaway today is for Terror Below, which is super fun. I'm wearing actually our Renegade O's shirt. And I remember at the con where we got these shirts, we were all joking about how Terror Below would be like a cereal and it would be Terrible O's. Terrible O's. I'm just going to leave that with you. And the giveaway code word for this amazing game is Pupper. So you can enter that giveaway word in the link where you will click through, and then it will tell you to enter. I've never clicked the link, so I actually don't know what it looks like, but I've heard there's a spot you can enter that word. So the word is Pupper. All right, friends, thank you so much for joining us. Have an amazing weekend, and remember to play your game. Bye.